Okay, it's 10:05. We have about 7 people. I imagine a lot more people will hop on, but let's go ahead and get started because I don't want us to kill too much time at the beginning. So welcome everyone to our 2023 alumni and student panel. My name is Angela Spade and I'm the associate head of school. So my plan is really just to say a few words to kick this off, and then I'm going to disappear and let our alumni and students do what they do best, which is to self-direct this. So I'm going to start off with a quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti that I read recently that really made me think of all of you. And he's a philosopher and writer and educator who worked with Maria Montessori herself. And he said that understanding comes only through self-knowledge, which is awareness of one's total psychological process. Thus, education in the true sense is the understanding of oneself, for it is within each one of us that the whole of existence is gathered. So while there are infinite moments in your lives that have shaped and will continue to shape who all of you are, this developing self-knowledge and how you're realizing that in the world is something that I'm struck with every time we have this panel. And MCH, we obviously can in no way take all of the credit for that, as we are a stop along your lifelong journey, but we've been doing this long enough that common threads do kind of emerge every year. And this is one of the most powerful ones, I think. So this is my 9th year at MCH, and that means that I've had the honor to know most of you as students and to watch you evolve. And it's been really delightful. And we can always market and promote who we are and what we offer until we're blue in the face, but really it's what you have to say that brings all of that to life and makes it real. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to this year's amazing host, Alex Imes.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Imes. I'm an MCH alumni. I'm currently a freshman at Roosevelt High School. I was at MCH from about late preschool to 8th grade, so a full decade, which is a long time. It's such a pleasure to be hosting this year's alumni panel. MCH is my second home of sorts for a couple reasons. My mom works there. I've been there for a very large portion of my life. And my earliest memories are there doing pouring works. I love talking about it any chance I get. Today is going to be pretty fluid. We have 2 main parts, 60 minutes of questions for our panel, and then about 25 of answering questions in the chat. So everyone who's watching, feel free to add questions in there as you see fit. All right, we can jump in with some introductions, I guess. Go ahead, and I'm gonna go from on my screen. Tell us your name, your preferred pronouns, your age or grade, and then one thing you attribute to your Montessori education. And then the first person on my screen here is Amina. So what if you go ahead and start us off?
Hi. Yeah, like Alex said, I'm Amina. I'm 17, a junior at Eastside Prep. What was the other part of that question? Something I attribute to MCH?
Yes, your preferred pronouns, your name, your grade, and then something you attribute to your Montessori education. Sorry.
Right. So I use she, her pronouns. Like I said, I'm a junior. And I think I really attribute like my ability to identify and pursue my own passions to MCH. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. All right. And then next on my screen is McKenna.
Hi, I'm McKenna. I am a freshman at Rollins College, and something that I attribute to Montessori would definitely be seeking out like close relationships with my teachers and advocacy, and my preferred pronouns are she, her.
Thank you. And then next we've got Rooney.
My name is Rooney. I am 14 and a freshman at Issaquah High School. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and something I attribute to my Montessori education is probably my independence and my strive to advocate for myself.
Great, thank you. And then next, Katie Ann.
Hi, my name's Katie Ann. I'm a freshman at Furman University. I am 18 years old. I use she, her pronouns, And something that I contribute to my Montessori education would be talking and getting a closer relationship with my teachers.
Great, thank you. Next is this complete stranger, Zoe Imes. Let me go ahead.
My name is Zoe Imes. I am in 7th grade and my preferred pronouns are she, her. Something I attribute to my Montessori education is my attitude towards other people and my willingness to talk about my feelings.
Thank you. All right, next is Will.
Hi, my name is Will Grossi. I'm in 7th grade. My pronouns are he, him. I go to Eastside Catholic School. And I think one thing I can attribute to my Montessori education is my connection to nature.
Great, thanks. All right, Gavin, go ahead and.
Hi, my name's Gavin. I'm currently a freshman at Sammamish High School. My pronouns are he, him. And one thing I attribute to my Montessori education is probably my drive to improve, whether it's like personal or academic.
Great, thanks. And then Kai?
My name is Kai. I use he, they pronouns. I'm in 8th grade. And something I attribute to my Montessori education is my communication skills and being able to talk to tons of different people, no matter how much we have in common, just being able to understand and communicate effectively with multiple different kinds of people.
Great, thank you. And then finally, Ronan?
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
So I am Ronan. I am 10. I'm in 4th grade, and I use he, him pronouns. And one thing I can attribute to the Montessori community, a bigger connection to like nature.
Great, thank you. All right. So talking about MCH, we talk about how unique the education is. So I'm wondering if any of you have had conversations with people you know about your Montessori education who are outside of Montessori, and what are differences that stand out between those? And I know a couple of you have not been at MCH for your whole educational career. So how would you say those experiences differ? Anyone want to start us off? I know for me, it was quite a change to go from just having 8 people in my class to meeting a new person every single day. That was the weirdest thing for me when I first went to Roosevelt. Anyone want to start us off with that one? It's kind of like a question a lot of parts. Zoe, go ahead.
I was talking to some of my friends about like my MCH experience, and they thought it was completely strange, the like control we have over our own education and like deciding what we want to focus on and like day by day control over that part of our lives.
Yeah. Thanks. All right, Will.
Same as what Zoe said. I haven't thought about it a lot, but I've talked to a few of my friends I've met, and like Zoe said, they thought it was really weird. They loved the fact that we had an animal, and they also loved the fact that we had animals at our school.
Yeah, the big thing that if you're talking about, my old middle school had goats. That's a big shocker to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I think we'll hear that one a lot throughout this call. All right, Kai?
My old school was a very strict in all the in the schedules and everything like that. And you were very strict in what you were learning. So even if you didn't understand certain concepts, they still had to keep going based off of lessons, no matter how far behind or ahead you were. And that was one thing that when I talk to my friends from that school, how much freedom we have with that kind of stuff and planning our days and stuff. They always get really confused because most of them are going to public school now and kind of are continuing that more scheduled routine, which is kind of cool to talk about.
Yeah, thanks. All right. McKenna?
Yeah, so I went to Montessori from when I was about 2 years old through elementary school. And then I transitioned to another smaller school, but after that, I transitioned to a very large public school, and it was definitely a very different environment. And talking with students there about the differences in education that we had, it was definitely very, very different styles of learning because I was so used to interactive group learning and being able to talk with my teachers and other peers. And I think that those skills have definitely been like carried through all of my educational years, and now in college being able to talk with teachers, and it's definitely something that comes back to those foundations that I had when I was younger. And the transition was definitely pretty difficult just because you're going to like such a large class size, but because I had those skills of advocacy and really valuing relationships with my teachers, I think that it went really well.
Yeah, and we'll get a chance to talk about our relationship with teachers and advocacy a lot more. So I'm excited for that. Rooney?
I think a difference that I've noticed is when I interact with teachers, they kind of are a little shocked that I do, because most of the time, at least from what I've observed from my peers, they kind of are more passive when it comes to their teachers, and they don't really like to build relationships with them. But if I have like a problem or I just have a generalized question, I'll go up to them, and they tend to be kind of more shocked that I would do that, because I guess from my Montessori education, I had those opportunities and I learned those skills to become close with teachers and feeling comfortable enough to go up to them and ask them questions. So that was like a big difference that I noticed when I transitioned to a big public school.
Yeah, thanks. And then Gavin?
So one thing I noticed when I like talk with friends is that they kind of treat school as like something they have to do and kind of like dread going to school every day, instead of like taking the opportunity to actually like of going to school to like learn like important things and all.
Yeah, there's a lot more appreciation for education when you come from a place that really nurtures that. Amina?
Yeah, so kind of like other people said, I think like transitioning from a super small school like MCH into a bigger school, and I still go to a pretty small school. There are like 90 kids in my grade. But yeah, that transition can be hard, but I think that MCH gives you like skills of self-advocacy that make it easier. And then also one thing that oh my God, MCH really nurtures that helped me as I was growing up and going through my educational career is like decision making. Because obviously as you get older and you're able to make more decisions about your education. And I know for a lot of my peers, there was like a learning curve there that like self-determination was like hard to grasp and understand. But yeah, I think that MCH gives you those skills really early on. So it was never strange for me, like growing up and being able to make decisions about my education.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's move on to questions about our connection with nature at MCH. That's a big part of the things that people are shocked about when you tell them about MCH. So we all got to experience the unique campus and curriculum that's immersed in nature. So like lessons outside, gardening, animals. You all have said kind of this, but can you speak to ways that an experience has helped you create and sustain a connection to the earth? Katie Ann?
So MCH let me appreciate nature as it is, because we have the gardens and the playground, which are always fun to help plant and pick the vegetables off of. And then the nature trail is just fun to run around and learn all about it when we have outdoor classrooms there. And I think I'm old enough where we used to be able to play on the big fields behind the nature trail before they used it to plant trees, but that was really fun to do, which you don't really see at most other schools where you have this big field surrounded by trees. Now it's just some field surrounded by fences. So that was really fun to do.
Nice, thank you. All right, anyone else talking about how we can create and sustain a connection with the earth with our education about nature? Let's see, McKenna?
Yeah, so I have a lot of memories from my experience at MCH on the different various trails we had. We had a nature trail, And I remember during class, we would go out to this little marsh area and collect samples and look at them under the microscope. We had gardens and chickens. And I think that being there from a young age really caused like my passion and love for nature and the environment to really grow. And I think that that's something that's needed now more than ever, where like given the situation with our climate and people needing to care more about nature and the outdoors. And that passion really like definitely was carried throughout the following years, and like now I'm majoring in environmental studies and marine biology, and I still like hold those memories and the ability to make connections at a young age very dear to my heart.
Great, thank you. All right, Amina?
Yeah, and going back to what Katie Ann said about the field, I think it's important that when we turn the field into a wetlands, it didn't just like become that. We like planted those trees, and I think that like process of being really immersed in the nature all the time definitely gave us all like an appreciation for it that somebody with more distance wouldn't really understand. And yeah, I think that made us all kind of understand like what's at stake in terms of the environment. Alex, you remember the green team? So I think like that nature aspect and also the advocacy, passion pursuing aspect just comes together and makes us all like pretty passionate about the environment.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the green team. That was a very big part of my education at MCH. Zoe, go ahead.
I think MCH gives you a strong passion to know and learn more about nature around you. A lot of people I know, like, and Green Team and a lot of other things we would learn about the plants and animals around us. And I don't think a lot of people get that.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So we've mentioned this a little bit again, but does anyone have a distinct memory connecting to nature at MCH? For me, there are many, but is there anything that really changed your perception about your place and responsibility on Earth, and how your influence impacts it and such? Gavin, go ahead.
I forget when this was, but I think it was during one of the years where we did the Earth Echo thing. A group of people or groups of people went down to like kind of the area behind the blacktop and like pulled out ivy for like probably like a good few hours or something like that. That memory really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, thank you. Will.
I remember in our classroom, it was really fun when we got baby chicks that we got to take care of. I remember doing that. It was really cool to watch the chickens like grow.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
Yeah. Zoe.
Every time we had Green Team, we would go out and do different things with the earth, whether it was planting or one time we were working on the worm bin outside. Anybody remember the worm bin?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't think a lot of people get to experience like fully like being immersed in nature and yeah.
And adding on to that, another big part of Green Team was learning about environmental science. So we would talk about the different kinds of habitats and ecosystems and how what you do really impacts those ecosystems. And if one thing changes, the whole ecosystem changes. I thought that aspect of learning about nature was really important for fostering our advocacy for environmental safety, stuff like that. That was really important. All right, so we're going to move on to projects and collaboration. This one is for alumni. What experience at MCH helped shape your approach to projects and collaborations? Let's see if we don't have a Anna, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, just projects in general, less so about collaboration. Well, passion projects. We did passion projects every year in lower elementary. And sort of like I touched on before, I think that like that experience of pursuing something that really interested in you. I remember I really loved mangoes and I did a whole project on mangoes and it was fantastic. Yeah, I think that has really stuck with me throughout the rest of my education. I've always been really encouraged, or I've always really wanted to find my sort of niche interest within a subject and explore it. And I think, yeah, I attribute that to MCH. And then in terms of collaboration, I think that MCH really teaches you how to work with a group, which is so hard and so hard for me all the time. But those skills of like communication and understanding people and listening to people, yeah, it's really helpful.
McKenna?
Yeah, similarly to Amina, I have a lot of very distinct memories of passion projects. I remember doing one on owls and one on dugongs, and from a very young age, being able to pursue what you're passionate about and like gain research skills, and now being able to like carry that throughout all of education and being able to work on scientific research now. And I think it's a very unique experience to be able to pursue what you want rather than being told. And collaboratively during school, we would be able to kind of choose like what we were to do for the day, what we wanted to learn, and being able to really like dive deep into that. And I remember working with different friends on different projects and gaining those skills of collaboration as well.
Thank you. Gavin?
So I feel like the open-endedness of like a lot of the projects that we were given at MCH really just like make them so much more interesting and all that. I remember specifically in middle school, I think me and two other people made a presentation, or well, separate presentations on CRISPR for genetics we were doing. And I thought that was like super interesting. And I went like pretty in depth and kind of went and like explored all this. And now we're doing a CRISPR unit in biology, and I'm like super excited for that. So
That's awesome. I remember that because I was really excited about it as well. Let's see, Rooney.
I think that because we were given a space that we could collaborate with each other and it was encouraged, really gave me those skills that when I like, let's say I'm given a group project in my social studies class about some historical figure or some event, I'm able to take charge and to feel comfortable enough to kind of just like direct where I want to take the project or like my ideas. And I think that not just like the projects that we were given, but the fact that we were able to work together and it was encouraged to work together. Even if you're working on separate works, or if like I'm working on Stamp Game and someone's working on some other work like test tubes, we could work together and we could help each other out with those two works. And I think that really made it easy. So like even if I'm working with someone on something completely different, I'm still able to connect with them and try and help them the best that I can, just because we were given that space and those and then was encouraged to do so.
Yeah, so there's a lot of natural collaboration in the classroom just because of proximity and the environment that you're in. I like that, how you put that. All right, let's see. So this is for current students. What have you learned at MCH about working with other people on projects and collaborations? And this is kind of touching on like peer relationships and how MCH fosters that really nice environment in classrooms where everyone is kind of friends. So does any of our current students want to take a stab at that first question? And it's okay if you need a minute to think about it. I know for me, projects and collaborations were always kind of tricky because I always wanted to do something independently, and it was really difficult to share a space where I had to like remind people. But I feel like especially in middle school, we did group projects all the time, so that really helped me understand that in order to work with people, you really have to understand their ideas and not just like remind people. You all need to collaborate on something. I don't know if that kind of connects to what we're talking about. All right, Kai, go ahead.
When we're doing, because this year middle school has a lot smaller of a class, so we're changing the way we do group projects, and we all have different sections we're researching and then combining them all together, and that is really changing how I view the group projects, because we're all, even if we're all doing separating and doing our own research and stuff, we're still connecting together at some point and kind of talking about all the different things we found out and just sharing the cool things and the things we found interesting. And oh, this person did this, but oh, I saw that this event happened caused this thing which you researched, and we're all kind of combining our interests and stuff. And I think that it's really cool how we're taking them in a new way and making it a lot more collaborative and making them a lot more connected than just having a ton of separate groups. I think it's always really cool how we're combining everything and coming together as one to share.
Thanks. And then Kai, do you mind reminding me how many people are in the middle school program this year?
Sure. There is 3 8th graders and 2 7th graders.
Great, thank you. Yeah. All right. Any other responses for things that you've learned at MCH about working with other people on projects and collaborations? Anything else? If not, we can move on to a different subject. All right. So we've talked about kind of peer relationships, and now we're going to talk about something kind of similar, but just as important, teacher relationships. I know a couple of you touched on how important it is in MCH. This is for alumni. How did your relationships with teachers at MCH help you navigate the world of teachers in bigger non-Montessori schools? I know a couple of you have answered this kind of similarly, but hoping we can have it like a deeper dive on this. Zoe.
At Montessori, you always had the opportunity to talk to your teachers about any of your questions or problems you were having. And I think it's very important to maintain that in other schools. So you can always find, it's sometimes a bit harder in public school, but I try to find time to talk to my teachers if I have questions or issues I'd like to discuss with them. And I think that's something that I got from MCH.
Great, thank you. Gavin.
So I think one thing the having a like strong relationship with my teachers at MCH help with is like really knowing that if you don't understand a concept that's being taught in class, or like you just need help with something, you can ask your teacher, uh, which I feel like not a lot of other people understand that you can do and are encouraged generally to do.
Yeah, thanks. And then let's see, Will.
Kind of adding on to what Gavin and Zoe said, I did notice that at my school I'm at, not a lot of people ask the teachers when they have questions or they need help on something. I think being an MCH has really shown me ways that I can ask teachers when I need additional help on certain subjects.
Great, thank you. Let's see, McKenna.
Yeah, so at MCH, I definitely got very close to my teachers there and was used to having conversations and asking questions and like not having any trouble with that, because it was something that was common in that school, in that place, because it's so collaborative and you have those deep connections. And then transitioning to a larger public school with like pretty large class sizes, there wasn't as much communication with the teachers as I was used to, but because of being familiar with reaching out and talking to my teachers and that just being a normal occurrence for me, I made sure that after class I would check in with my teachers and introduce myself and talk about questions and really like just normal conversations. And because of that, I was able to grow close to my teachers in high school as well. And that was something I carried into college too. And I'm a freshman right now, and I make sure that I go to my teacher's office hours afterwards, and that's something that they really appreciate. And it has helped me grow as a person and learn more. And it's given me many opportunities as well with those professors for recommendation letters, research, and just like really learning more as well. So.
Great, thank you. And then another part of this question is, we went from having one teacher for 3 years and then moving on to a different one, but still having that teacher in like close proximity, to having 6 teachers at a time, and they change every semester. A couple of our alumni, I'm wondering if you can talk about how you adapted to that, how that was difficult, or maybe how it was easy. Oh, here we go. Amina.
Yeah, so I think like also adding on to the last question, MCH makes you really good at advocating for yourself and emailing teachers and being comfortable with that. But when you get to a larger school, your teacher doesn't like see you all the time and so doesn't necessarily know what you're struggling with. And so I feel like that means that you really have to know yourself and you really have to like know what questions are going to help you succeed. And that's something that I think the skills of MCH like prepared me for. But yeah, it's really hard to not be as known by a teacher when you go into a larger school. And it's also hard, or it was hard for me to like have teachers that I didn't like or that didn't like me, because there's not a lot you can do in that situation. You kind of just have to know how to communicate with different types of people. Because yeah, in MCH, I knew my teachers for 3 years. We got really comfortable with each other. But you know, sometimes you're just gonna have a teacher that you don't necessarily like their teaching style, and you just kind of have to deal with that and have to know like how you can help yourself succeed in a class regardless.
Yeah, thank you. Rooney?
I think that MCH definitely gave me and Montessori in general gave me the tools to advocate for myself, because like from experiences that I have at my school, like I have friends who like they know that they have a problem and they can pinpoint what it is, but they don't have the skills to know how to advocate for themselves. Like for example, I was having trouble in one of my math classes last year when I was in 8th grade, and I needed extra support, so I emailed my counselor. And I was like, hi, this is my problem. I was wondering if there's any support I could get. And my counselor like pulled me in and was like, did you go to Montessori school? Because every single time I get an email, it's from a parent. And I always know it's Montessori students because the actual student will email me with their problem. And I always think about that because it's just proof that MCH and Montessori gave me those skills. I can advocate for myself without feeling nervous or scared about what the outcome would be.
Thank you. Katie Ann?
So MCH, for me at least, has really taught me how to advocate, especially when having multiple teachers at once, and especially for a short range of time. You really need to go back to office hours after class and just communicate with them, be like, hey, this is what I need. Sending essentially a first day email, introducing yourself, I found helped so much with trying to get to know the teachers, and they know you, and it helps a lot. And I say that could help with, that's what MCH taught me what to do.
Thank you. And then this is for our current students. So I think Ronan, Kai, that might be it. Those are our current students. Yeah. What is a thing you think is important about the way that Montessori teachers and students relate to each other? So what's important about the relationship between a student and a teacher, the way you foster that relationship? Kai, go ahead.
I think with my personal experience of having the teachers is not only are they teachers, but also your friends and people you can ask for help. They're not just going to tell you what to do and expect you to do it and figure out how to do it on your own. They're there to lend a helping hand, and not only with schoolwork, but also just if you're having a problem in general, like the middle school assistant teacher was like, hey, you have this craft that you wanted to start, here, I can help you do that. It's not like they're not just teachers, they're also our friends and people we can talk to just to have a fun conversation with, or if we both have the same interests, we can just talk about those interests. And it's really cool to how the relationships we have and build with the teachers.
Yeah, thank you. I remember coming home from school one day and talking to my mom and saying that we had like an hour-long conversation with Mark about Harry Styles, and she thought that was hilarious. And I think that really speaks to the character of all of our teachers at school. All right, let's see. So a couple of you have talked about advocacy, self-advocacy, and advocacy for others. In what ways, this is for alumni, in what ways did MCH help you learn about how to advocate for yourself or others, especially when we're thinking about social justice, peace, education, diversity, and inclusion and equity? Are there experiences at MCH that helped you connect to those? I know that's kind of a broad question, but Amina.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is that MCH teaches you not to be apathetic. I think in like our society, we get pretty desensitized to a lot of like awful things. And MCH teaches you to make sure, I said MCH before, right? Now I'm like scared that I keep saying EPS. Okay. Yeah, so MCH teaches you not to be apathetic and to really care about those things and to make sure that you don't get desensitized to awful things that happen. And I think like that, continuing to see them as like things that are abnormal, considering to see tragedy as something that isn't normal in our society is like really helpful. Yeah, it makes it really hard not to care and not to want to be an
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? It's okay if not. Zoe.
I think my time at MCH has taught me to speak up about issues that I see in like the school sense or in like a larger issue.
Yeah, thanks. And then Zoe, can you think of any instance like examples of that, either in school or broader?
I have a class in which we have 2 bathroom passes per quarter, and I did not think that was fair at all. Neither did my friends. So we started a petition. We got 144 signatures, and then we brought it to the principal, and she's currently trying to get it to the school board.
Thank you. McKenna?
Yeah, when Zoe was talking about that, it kind of reminded me of experiences that I had in high school where I realized that the school system is really like set up for one type of student and not really neurodiversity in the way that MCH did. And me having a lot of learning differences, I definitely had to learn how to advocate for myself, but I also advocated for others. And with the help of my mom, we were able to get like a testing center and help with other people who need accommodations and 504 rather than being forced to like fit into a box that I think that the current public school system is working with. And there are definitely challenges, and I think it's something that can be improved on. And so I learned how to advocate for what I need in that sense.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Any other responses to that one? Okay. And this is for our 2 current students. Thinking about social justice, peace, education, diversity, inclusion, and equity. What do you think you're learning right now that is helping you advocate for others, yourself, or the greater world around you? So this could be small, like in classroom, advocating for others, or big, like social justice. Kai, go ahead. Thank you.
We are currently learning about history, like we're doing the history section. And one thing that I think is super cool is that we're talking about the problems and injustices that happen in history, but also injustices that are going on as the days go by, like the Russian-Ukraine war. We still update about so what's happening on there and all the stuff in the news. And I think it's amazing how we're not only talking about the problem, like we're not acting like everything is fine now because all the stuff that the bad things in the past are done now, but we also are still dealing with versions of those problems from the past and newer problems that are just starting up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the discussions about current events are really important in those older classrooms, but also in the younger classrooms. I think some version of those are both went on for me in like lower elementary, but we also went really in depth in middle school. We would talk about current events in morning meetings. I'm sure that still happens, but yeah, it's really important. Rooney.
That was what you said, Kai, reminded me of this not incident, but the situation that happened. We were online on January 6th when the insurrection happened. And I remember we all jumped on a Zoom call and we had like a 3-hour conversation just processing what was happening. And I think that's really powerful that we were given that space to talk about it and to process those feelings, because I had no idea what was going on. I just woke up and something crazy was happening like this. Something was happening with our head of government, and it wasn't a positive thing. And But like Mark, who was my teacher at the time, he gave us that space and he like facilitated a conversation where we could all talk about how we were feeling, ask questions. He could answer to the best of his ability because he was still learning information while we were as well. And yeah, again, we were able to talk about those conversations and current events that were happening, because it was just it was an amazing school where you could talk about things that were happening and you could give your opinions and you could not worry about the backlash that would happen or if it was not the right things to say, because you could learn from your mistakes. And I think I really like, from that conversation, I think about it a lot because it was just an amazing conversation that we were able to have with my classroom.
Yeah, thank you. It's really important to have that space for discussion in confusing or scary times. That's really important. All right. Oh, Kai, there you go.
And I want to say something about the smaller, like in class things. We also have class meetings on Wednesdays where we talk about just someone could bring up a problem that's happening in school and we'll find out a solution to try and figure it out, maybe at a later date. Maybe we find something now and see how that works later on as time continues. And it's really great that we get to talk about what we're feeling about those small things, like something someone else might not care about or notice in the classroom, but just because one person might have a problem with it, it gets everyone else thinking and how to fix that problem, which is great how we're not afraid to share our problems with how our classroom is set up, how a lesson is going, and things like that.
Yeah, thank you. And then Ronan, I've got a question for you, and it's totally okay if you don't have an answer. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but can you talk a little bit about class meetings? You guys still have those, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Can you yeah. Go ahead and
So,
talk a little bit
like,
about what you
what
did.
it is? Okay. So like we have this thing where we like this book where we rate like problems that either you or you and other people have, and on class meetings you try to like solve them. So like let's say somebody doesn't like that it's loud in the classroom. You can like write that down and you can discuss it and how you can like fix that problem.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. All right. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I want to make sure we get to everything. We've been talking about how MCH helps cultivate our own personal passions, whether that's something we pursue in a career or just something we do for hobbies. What is something you're passionate about right now, and how did MCH nurture that curiosity? I would say this is open for everyone. Katie Ann.
So MCH actually let me have a passion for learning how to sew. So when I was first grade, they had an after school program where they had sewing machines up and you could join, you can learn how to sew. And from there, it turned out that, yes, I do enjoy sewing, but I enjoy working with fiber more. So now I work with fiber instead of textiles, and that has led to my current passion of crocheting and knitting, and stemmed from learning how to sew in first grade.
Thank you. Yeah, art is a huge part of MCH. We use it to express ourselves, whether it's to show your identity or just for fun. I have started a pottery class at my new high school, which I'm extremely excited about. It's the thing that wakes me up every morning, just to get to go to that class. And I think that that passion for like working with my hands, we did clay projects with Miss Michelle. It's just super important to me for being a joyful person. I don't know if that's, yeah. All right. Anyone else have any? Kai?
I remember when I first went to school, we did, I can't remember what it's called now, but we'd have time, I forget a lot about my first year there, but or we'd have anything we wrote, like short stories and stuff, we would read out in a circle, and everyone would just read what they wrote and share little fun stories. And I always kind of had a hard time with writing short stories like that. But as I throughout the years, I've learned more about different writing styles and different writing techniques. I've fallen in love with writing, and I now write poetry all the time. That's one of my favorite things to do. I've been for one of our first assignments this year, I started writing a short story that now, if I were to continue writing the storyboard for it, I probably could turn into a book. Like, just, I never used to have a fun writing was always so hard for me because I could never get the words out on the page. But because of all the lessons and things we've had on different writing techniques and writing styles and how different people write, I've fallen in love and have now actually enjoy writing and taking the time to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I've had the pleasure of reading your writing, and it's amazing. Amina.
Yeah, I actually had a similar experience to Kai. I never really loved reading and writing when I first learned how to do it. I was like, okay, I can do this now, but I don't really love it. But yeah, learning about writing and being encouraged to always try new things. Yeah, that made me really, really love writing. I write a lot of poetry as well. I did a poetry reading at Elliott Bay Bookstore last night, little plug. That was fun. And yeah, another big part of it was the choice book project, which we did in upper elementary. You picked a book every month to read and do a project on, and it made me love reading so much. And I really didn't like reading when I was younger. But that really made me fall in love with reading, and the books that I read then are the core memories now that are ingrained in my personality, and I will remember forever. I work at a bookstore. I'm very passionate. And that wouldn't be true if MCH hadn't encouraged me to continue reading and to continue to find books that I liked and that fit what I wanted to read. Yeah.
And I want to add on, Amina, I don't know if you know this, but you are one of the main reasons that I love reading so much. Andy remembers you teaching them how to read, and that's a big part of, we do things together all the time. So when they were like, Alex, you got to try this thing, it's called reading. And we just kind of fostered that love of reading together. And it's a lot of because of you. So I really want to thank you for that. Anyone have any other responses to that one? If not, it's okay. We can move on. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about community engagement. So MCH helped you shape your strengths and passions to make a difference in both your community and across the globe. Can you think of any examples of that? So I know we've mentioned Green Team, but are there other ways where we've been talking about just global issues and how to advocate for those? Anyone? I know for me, oh, there we go. McKenna.
Okay, well, first I just want to touch on community itself within MCH. I think that it's kind of like a family, and once you're a part of that family, you're always a part of it. And I am in college and still have so many connections and friendships and memories from MCH, and have even come back and been able to give back to that community by volunteering at the preschool over the summer. And I think that there's a lot of service-based learning within MCH as well, and that caused me to always want to be able to give back to my various communities in the way that MCH gave to me and taught me how important it is to contribute to both my local and global community. And so after that, I've volunteered for multiple different organizations, and it's been something that I as a person really value.
Great, thank you. All right. Oh, all right. Rooney.
I think that we were, again, we learned a lot about different cultures and different places around the world. And it started even from, when we were in early childhood, in primary, we would do the maps of the different continents and we would learn about different cultures, and that really like made made me more interested in the world around me. Like when I talk about my friends, like I want to live in Europe. Like that's kind of like my end goal. It's been like that since I was like 6 years old because of the environment that I was in, that I was learning about Europe. And my friends are always like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to leave? Why do you want to experience like something else? And I'm like, well, because I've learned about different cultures and I want to learn about the world and the human race and how we function as a society. And MCH really like started that passion for me because of just the different lessons that we would learn. Like when I was in first grade, I did a passion project on Peru, just because I was learning. I saw a map of South America and I saw Peru and I was like, I want to learn more about that. And so I did like a whole passion project on it. And I think that I can really thank like Montessori and MCH for starting those passions, because they were just so normalized, learning about different cultures and different experiences.
Yeah, thank you. Gavin.
I really feel like being in the green team for a while like really taught me like how important it is to acknowledge climate change and like how big of a threat and how big of a deal it is.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely really important. Kai.
I I get into a lot of really random interests, and like one of them that started last year and it's still going strong is the different mythologies around the world. And I remember when I came into school and I started talking about how I got this book for the day before about Greek mythology, and I was super excited and I had already started reading it. Um, Before or during recess that day, Mark went up to me and was like, I've got a book about mythology. I think it's Norse mythology. If you want, you can borrow it or something like that. I don't remember his exact words, but I just remember like how every time I come in with a new interest, my classmates and teachers are always like, if you want some resources to help, or like, hey, I like that too, you want to talk about it and stuff. Like another one is I watch a lot of YouTubers, and I have been watching one since 2020 and recently got back into it. And I was talking about it nonstop for the first few weeks of the year, and then I got Sophie and one of the seventh graders, Oscar, into it, and now they are both really obsessed with it. And I just think it's so cool how we all share interests, and if one person starts something, then someone else might join in, or someone might already know that subject, and you can all just geek out about different things. And it's so cool how open it is to just talk about your interests and find new ones to get into.
Thank you. Zoe?
I have a similar experience. My favorite book series I got from one of my friends, and then I shared it with a bunch of other people and got like everyone obsessed with it. And yeah, I like loved how everyone got into this one thing just because I started talking about it, and then everyone else like started talking about it.
This was Wings of Fire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a famous like yellow Greek mythology book that's on campus. Does anyone remember that? Yeah, it was it was a big part of there was a phase in everyone's MCH career when they got obsessed with Greek myths and they looked in that book, and I remember that book really well. All right, so we've been talking about empowering others. Let's kind of talk about empowering ourselves through confidence. MCH has a big focus on nurturing confidence and your sense of identity and self. Can you speak to any experiences or things teachers have done, or the attitude around confidence that has helped you cultivate that part of yourself? And I think this is for alumni and current. So yeah, open to everyone. Will?
Well, during my island projects presentation, I kind of froze up on stage. And I think if I was at any other school, I might have just been too scared to continue. But I knew like at MCH, everyone's always really caring and it's a judgment-free zone. So I think knowing that, I was able to push through and continue my presentation. but I don't think I might not have been able to do that at other schools. So that was really cool to think about.
Thank you. And I want to say your presentation was amazing. I remember it very distinctly. It was
Thank
really,
you.
yeah. Amina.
Yeah, I think touching on what other people have said for the last question as well, there's definitely like an emphasis on how each person, you know, has their individual interests that makes them an interesting person. And there is such a respect for that at MCH. It really teaches you that you have, you know, your own value, and wherever your interests may lie, that has value and that has output. Like, or you can output that into the world and it'll be amazing, you know? I also just think like we learn a lot about public speaking from like a very young age. Like we had like speeches for our passion projects at like in like first grade, and that made me a super confident public speaker, which I think is really important now.
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit more about that because I have a couple examples, but Katie Ann, why don't you go ahead?
I think because MCH is such a small, close-knit community, it helps empower students to be able to feel confident enough to speak to one another. And as everyone's been saying, because everyone has such different interests, it makes it really interesting to interact with everyone. And it just helps create a very close-knit community.
Thank you. And before we move on, I just want to say, I think we've got about 10 more minutes of open questions before we move on to chat. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. All right, Rooney.
I think that also like everyone's talking about like the emotional like confidence we've been given. I think also academic confidence is just as important. Like it's embedded in the philosophy that with the 3 different grade levels that we help each other out. So like if I was working on test tubes back in like elementary, right? If I was working on test tubes and someone's working on stamp game and I've already mastered stamp game and they walk up to me and they're like, hey, Rooney, can you help me with this? I'm kind of confused. The me helping them embedded that confidence that, oh, I know how to do this and I know how to make this work. And I think that, yeah, we were talking about emotional confidence, but also the academic confidence I really gained from that, from Montessori, just because like I was able to help other people, and helping other people really embedded the work itself in me. So then like I ended up better understanding it after I had helped someone else versus me just doing it on my own. Yeah.
Thank you. Kai?
What at my old school, I never really had found any interest in school that I could find it worth it. Like my old school was just, it somehow took all of the joy out of everything and turned it into like a scolding. Like if you enjoyed this form of art, well, sorry, we have to do this one now. That's going to be probably the only time this year we're going to learn about that. And that happened with pretty much everything. But at this school, if you have an interest in something in school or outside of it, they're willing to continue your interest and help you find love in something that you would have never thought you would have enjoyed. Like I hated math for a long time, and then like I think mainly last year I've started getting a ton of the concept, and now I'm like getting confident in my knowledge of math and other things like that. And when I've talked to my friends from my old school, we a lot of times talk about the problems of our old school, and they will all, like when talking about their school now, they kind of start to bring up problems that we had in our old school in theirs. And I'm happy to see that I found a place where I can find the things I enjoy and have them not taken a dark turn, but like being able to appreciate them, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much. McKenna.
Yeah, at MCH, I was definitely able to foster a love for learning, and I was always very excited to learn new things, compared to a lot of my peers when I joined high school, where it was more, I'm here because I have to, I'm in this class because I have to. And I think that those fundamentals at my Montessori education really like carried through high school and into college, where I love and enjoy all of my different classes and am eager to learn more and have the confidence to be able to take classes outside of my major. Like I'm taking a political science class this semester, and although it might not be my strong suit and what I know the most about, I'm excited to take it and have that confidence to be able to ask questions and participate in discussion and put myself at risk rather than like constantly having that fear of failure, and definitely have developed a love for that.
Yeah, MCH really helps you go out of your comfort zone, which is really difficult. I know I have an example of this. We've done a play almost every year. And I started with small roles because public speaking was never something that I was really both passionate or good at. But when I did the lead role for Lydia Dara, I really fell into it, and I really loved it. It was really fun. And it kind of made me understand a bit more about myself and how I can be more confident, both with public speaking and in general. I feel like you can apply emotional confidence to academic confidence. Like Rooney, you were kind of saying something similar to that. All right. Any other answers to that? Oh, Will, do you have your hand up for another question, or do you have an answer?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to lower it.
That's all right. Okay. So we talked about self-acceptance and self-love, confidence. Can any of you speak to how MCH experience impacted how you accept other people in your life? Particularly, how do you respond when you have a different opinion or when someone challenges a core belief you have? Hi.
I've found when talking to other people and meeting new people, I've found since joining MCH, I've found a confidence in myself and my own ideals and beliefs, and I can talk about them a lot more confidently. Like if someone were to I like doing debates. I think they're fun, and I try to turn things that might happen into arguments or disagreements into debates, so they're a lot more positive, and also being able to see other perspectives easier. Like we had a little mini debate last year, and it was fun getting to research. It's fun researching other different perspectives and your own, to see where if something you might believe wholeheartedly might have a huge flaw, and being able to research and deep dive into it, but also looking at another point of view and being able to see all the different pros and cons to that one. And it's great to see how something that might make me and my friend get into an argument can be turned into a positive conversation, and getting to understand each other and our different perspectives.
That speaks to a whole lot of emotional intelligence, and I really respect that. So thank you. Gavin.
I feel like MCH really taught me that like if you're arguing with someone to like really try and put yourself in their shoes and like consider their perspective. And also, I think it's really important to keep in mind that if you're sharing opinions, that neither of you are right or wrong. You're just sharing your opinions with each other. I think it's really hard to like believe that your opinion's right and theirs is wrong. You know, that's the only opinion that is right, but it's not.
Yeah, thanks. Amna.
Yeah, I think that MCH definitely teaches a lot about just accepting people as they are, and learning that everybody's opinion is informed by their own experiences, which are totally valid, and their life is going to inform how they shape their opinions in that moment. And that's something I'm still working on. Like it's still really hard for me to accept, like what Gavin was saying, that I'm not always right. yeah, so and those skills that MCH teaches you about listening and looking at things from other people's perspective, they're really valuable. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right. If we don't have any more answers to that one, I think we're going to move on to our very last question. We live in a world that seems to be constantly bombarding us with hard things. Global warming, violence, racism, bigotry, political unrest, to name a few. How do you find joy in life? Can you describe specific or overall experiences from your time at MCH that helped prepare you to deal with stress in a positive way? For me, this is a loaded question because I've had trouble dealing with stress specifically in like a healthy way. There was a year that I took on a little too much, and I had a lot of stuff going on. There was like newspaper, the play, and I didn't reach out. And that was pretty difficult. And it really made me understand after talking with teachers and parents that it's really important to reach out when you have something stressful going on. MCH really helped with that. McKenna.
Yeah, so I think in life, there's definitely a lot that you have to balance, from academics to just personal life, social, and everything. And I think being at MCH really helped me learn from a young age how I need time to recharge and be alone and really like reflect with myself, because I am a very high anxiety person and get overstimulated pretty easily. And I had the ability to be able to go on walks outside, and that also kind of connects to connection with nature, because that was something that always helped me recharge. And because I was able to learn that from a young age, it's definitely helped me know that I need that. And even like being in college, you don't really get a lot of time where you're alone. You have a roommate, you live in a dorm with a ton of other people, and when you're somebody who needs that time, it can definitely be very hard. So I know that I need to like take a walk outside or ask for time alone, and I think that that's definitely helped me balance a lot of that and be able to be less stressed.
Yeah, knowing yourself is really important. Zoe.
I learned from MCH that when you're really stressed out, it's important to take some time to focus on yourself and look at how you're feeling and what you can do to improve that. And
Thank you. Gavin.
I feel like MCH really taught me that if I just have like a ton of stuff going on and it's kind of hard to uh, figure stuff out, kind of like take a step back and uh, kind of like focus on one thing at a time. Especially like when I joined high school, like the workload and like other things. Like I joined band and all that, and that it's a lot of work. So it's really important to kind of take a step back and focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, thank you. Kai.
I am a person that gets stressed very easily, and I stress myself out over the smallest things, and a lot of times that would end up messing with how when I could do my schoolwork, and if I was behind on something, being able to finish it in time. So a lot of times throughout being in both the schools I've been to, MCH is definitely like super, like if you're stressed out, you can always have a break and tell a teacher or just someone, and they'll be able to like let you have the time to take a step back and just kind of not have to worry about deadlines or anything like that, and just take a moment. Like there have been multiple times where like a project would be due that day and I still hadn't finished my section of the project, and like I'd just be like on the verge of a breakdown, and Mark would just like text my mom and like, hey, it doesn't matter, just like as long as she comes in today, we can just have like a chill day, we can play games, it doesn't matter, like we can always push back the due date of it. And that always made me feel a lot better, because even if like I was delaying all the work that like everyone else had done. It was still like it wasn't a matter of we're not doing this because of you. It was we still have extra time to fix things, and that means the project would be better than it was if we had done it today, which always made me feel a lot better to be able to share what I'm feeling and when I'm stressed or stuff like that, and be able to get help for it.
Yeah, thank you. And then Ron, I'm going to put you on the spot one more time. Is that all right? Yeah, okay. Can you talk about ways that you manage your workload? So if you have a project that's coming up, how do you manage that if it's stressful?
So mostly, if I have like a big project coming up, I don't try to do it all at once. I try to do it in like, let's say I do a little bit today, and then tomorrow I'll do a bit more, and then like later I'll finish it, and then so it becomes easier than just in one day just do 3 hours of just straight project work than just like 30 minutes in like an hour.
Yeah, thank you. I do that all the time. It's really helpful. Great. All right. I think if that's all of the answers, we can move on to our Q&A. I see we've got a couple in here. The first one is, how was your transition from Montessori to public school from an academic perspective? Did you find yourself with others who went through regular public high school, and was it easy or difficult to cope with? I think this one's for alumni. Zoe.
It was very difficult at first because like a lot of the people knew each other already from like previous schools, and the teaching experience was definitely a lot different, and because like teachers approached teaching a lot differently than MCH, and but I think MCH makes you very willing to adapt to new situations and learn, and to take the time to learn how to improve your situation, and like reach out and make connections with people, stuff like that.
Yeah. McKenna.
Yeah, I guess kind of addressing this question, there's also one asking about adjusting to test taking and transitioning to a larger school. I'd say that academically, I was definitely on par with other students, if not ahead, because I was able to come from a background, like as I was saying earlier, where I really had a love and passion for learning. And I think that that can take you very far academically. But one of the big struggles that I had was definitely test taking, because it was a very different style of learning that I was used to. And a lot of it was like Scantron, bubble sheets. And as somebody, I have like a vision impairment and ADHD, among a couple of other things. So I came to high school with a 504 and needed a more like silent space to be able to take tests and accommodations. And at the school that I went to, the testing room that we were put into was the same room that the kids in detention were put into. And I remember being a freshman and just being like, this feels very wrong. And them like saying, oh, this is where the kids with disabilities go. And I was like, is this some sort of punishment because you're putting us here like with kids from detention? I remember just being shocked. And as I was saying earlier, that was something I definitely advocated for, because I felt that it was very wrong, and eventually that was changed. And I think that throughout that year, I was definitely able to adjust to the test taking environment more, but it definitely also made me pursue education in the future, like the liberal arts college that I'm at now, that is not very like test taking focused and more interactive and comprehensive and interdisciplinary.
Yeah, thank you. Rooney.
I definitely had some struggles going into my public school because I'm in the process of being tested for ADHD, because that was just because at MCH, I didn't seem like I had it because I had all the resources that I needed, and teachers would ask like, oh, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? And so I think that when I transitioned into public middle school and high school, I definitely I struggled with organization and just like making sure that I understand what's going on and being able to ask for questions, because I also have bad social anxiety. So sometimes it's stressful asking for help from a teacher that I don't really know and that I didn't have that one-on-one connection with that I did at MCH. But with also, again, using the skills that I did gain from MCH, I've been able to kind of come out of my shell a little bit, be able to ask for help to the point where I'm now in the process of getting a 504 plan and getting the help that I need. But I think, again, it all started from the learning to advocate for myself, like even it was just to my mom, from the skills that I learned at MCH.
Thank you. Yeah. Gavin.
I remember going to the first day in high school and kind of like realizing that like I had 7 classes instead of just like maybe a few subjects, and I had to like study for all of them and like keep all that in my head. It was really overwhelming. But I feel like being at MCH really helped with like learning how to manage all that and like asking for help when I needed it and all that.
Yeah, connecting to that, as well as test taking, actually, my having an organized brain is very important for me. I have 6 classes, but it's still pretty stressful to keep all of your assignments, times you can visit your teachers. That's been pretty difficult because they all have different times. I have a planner, and MCH really encouraged planning things out. I have note cards for tests, and MCH really encouraged that. I remember when I first took a couple, they weren't tests in middle school. What are they called in middle school? Like study guides? Not sure. I'll check that one. But when I tried studying for those, we really worked on ways you could do that in a productive way. And I've carried all of those skills to high school, and it's really helped me out. And I really think I wouldn't be as successful in school if I didn't have all of those skills. So MCH really prepares you for just organization, which is a key part in high school, especially. McKenna.
Yeah, I think adding on to that, MCH definitely helped me gain more organizational skills, and in preparing for tests in both high school and college, it definitely made me work on realizing like full concepts rather than just memorization. And I think that that's something that definitely has helped me excel in college right now, because I took biology last semester, and that is a very, very test heavy course. But I was able to, this is connecting to other things as well, go and talk to my professor during office hours and like learn full concepts and talk through and collaborate with other students. And that helped me like really excel in that class. And I think a lot of the fundamental parts of learning and skills I gained from Montessori.
Amina.
Yeah, I just really wanted to echo what you said, Alex, about organization. I remember when I was in elementary school, we would have like daily planning every single day, and we have to, write what we wanted to do and prioritize it. And I'll be honest, like I thought it was like a really unnecessary practice when I was in elementary school, but going into middle and high school, that is probably what's like helped me like manage stress the best. I use a Google Calendar now, very useful. But yeah, especially like when you get to high school and you're not just managing your classes, you're managing your classes and your extracurriculars and your random outside of school commitments, and for me work as well. Like, yeah, it's really hard, and it's hard to stay organized, but MCH really prepares you for that.
Great, thank you. Let's look at another question. What are some skills you felt you had to groom where you felt your public school peers were a bit ahead? Is there anything where you had to work on where public school peers were ahead? Anyone have any? I can't really think of one. Let's see. Oh, Gavin.
I feel like socially, because in high school, like pretty much everybody kind of like came from a public school or they already knew each other and kind of we're like really good at being able to meet and like talk to so many different people, all that. But you know, at MCH there were maybe like 20-ish people in your class who you'd known like most of them for like years. So it was kind of hard adjusting.
Yeah, going from knowing someone for like 8 years to never having met thousands of not thousands of people, hundreds of people. Let's see, Katie Ann.
So I can actually say the same thing. Going from middle school to high school, I knew everyone in my middle school because I also had them from elementary. But then going into high school, I only knew so many people that were from my old school. And it's just like, whoa, there's more kids, there's more people to know. And then going into college, especially because I'm currently on the East Coast, so it's a completely different culture here. And talking with everyone, it's so different that it's hard to interact with people socially. But MCH kind of, which helps with that a bit by interacting. But that's one thing I would say that would be different.
Yeah. There's definitely quite a different environment around public schools than there are at MCH that you kind of have to get used to. There's like different language and stuff. Yeah, let's see. There's another one here. What are some skills that MCH provided you that helped you the most in public school? And then they ask for examples. Does anyone have an answer to that one? Zoe.
I think problem solving skills from like elementary school, kindergarten, we're taught to solve our problems constructively. And that has helped me a lot. Like if my friends are about to get into an argument, I can help them like calm down and talk about it rationally, which is not a skill that everyone has. And I think that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, it's really important. Let's see. Anyone else? Rooney.
I think that we were learning to problem solve, like what Zoe was saying, since we were in kindergarten. Like we had our tables and we had our discussion tables, and we would use I statements. And so it can be like, I felt when you said this, I felt X, Y, and Z, and I think that it's definitely different. I've learned that from like my peers who went to public school, who didn't necessarily have they weren't necessarily facilitated to deal with their emotions or to be so as in touch with their emotions as we were at MCH. And I feel like a lot of the times my friends come to me for questions about their problems or advice because the way that my brain works to process problems is different than theirs, just because of the environment that I grew up in. It just was a lot more collaborative. Like when I would work through problems, I'd work with problems with someone else or the person I was having an issue with. And I was given more perspective, and it would work more as a group. And I feel like that's where a lot of my peers, I guess, lacked that went through public school.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think MCH really taught me how to be assertive in my communication skills. I had an instance with someone who was not being very nice to my sibling, which is not okay. And I walked up to them and I let them know, I was like, here's what you've done. Here's why I'm not gonna allow you to do this again. And here's how it impacted my sibling. And I think that assertiveness kind of scared them. And they didn't do the impolite thing again. But it was a constructive way where I could politely say what I needed from that person in a way that didn't lead to more conflict. All right. Do we have any more questions that are unanswered in here? I think the transition questions about going from public high school, we talked about them a little bit in terms of academic. I don't think we talked about transitioning. Oh, we did talk a little bit about transitioning in the social aspect of that. Maybe we can talk more about that. Let's see, McKenna.
Sorry, I saw a question about like preparing for SAT, which is kind of about testing. Is it okay if I touch on
Yeah,
that?
of course. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did not take the SAT, I took the ACT because there's two different tests that you can take for college. And it was something that I was definitely very like worried and apprehensive about because I have never been a fan of standardized tests and have never thought that they were an accurate way to gauge somebody's intelligence. However, because it is a part of the college application process, it's something that I wanted to do well on. So I worked one-on-one with a tutor, and I think that definitely like what I was touching on before with different test taking skills and like working out, like drawing out and working one-on-one with somebody really helped. And I guess going through like different core concepts and making sure I knew that, and also just like the basic knowledge that's on those tests and taking practice tests really helped me. And when it came to the time of taking the test, I definitely felt very confident and ended up doing a lot better than I thought I was, and ended up doing really good. And I think that knowing like the way that I learn and taking that into account, and also like advocating for accommodations with like the ACT and College Board like really helped with that as well. And it ended up turning out good. So
Yeah, thank you. Do we have time? I think we have time for one more question. So this one is kind of connected to some of the others that we've answered. But it is asking about a specific skill that you see your peers at your new school lack or struggle with that you realized you learned at MCH. We talked a little bit about like emotional skills. Are there any physical skills, like academic skills that maybe your peers at public high schools lack that you learned at MCH? Amina?
Yeah, and math was something that I really loved at MCH and then kind of started to struggle with in middle and high school. Still struggling, but it's getting better. And I think what I like learned was like the visualization of problems. And that's something that I know other people that were also struggling with math were like less equipped to do. But yeah, drawing out a problem and like visualizing it and understanding like why certain formulas work is something that I think MCH really teaches you how to appreciate. Whereas like some traditional schools, like, you just learn something because it's true and not why it's true.
Yeah, talking through proofs. I think that's why I'm doing pretty well in geometry, because we're talking about proofs, which is really important to understanding a concept. But I know in other parts of math, we don't really discuss why something works. It's just a fact. So I really liked that answer. Anyone else have anything else? Gavin.
So for my English final, I was really struggling. We had to write an essay, and I was kind of like struggling with that. So, like pretty often throughout the class, I would ask the teacher like, how do I do this? Like, how would I do this? Or like, what could I write here to like develop this or whatever? And I think there were some other people who in there who were kind of struggling with it. But I noticed that not a lot of other people would like go up to the teacher and ask for help on
I think that kind of touches on advocacy for your class, because you asked the questions that people wouldn't, but they still got to know the answer. Kai.
This is gonna be answered a little bit differently, but what I'm talking about, like how I used to treat school at my old school versus at MCH, but I realized when I look back at a lot of my memories from my old school that I wouldn't barely ever ask for help. The only time that I would get help was when either someone else, like I would figure out the question, answer to a question I had was either if someone else asked it or if they ended up after like they'll like I'll hand in my assignment or something, they'll realize that I didn't get it and then they'll try and help me figure it out. But I realized like looking back that I had a lot of problems and stuff that I didn't go and ask for help on, or if I didn't understand a concept, like and people were already like, everyone else had already understood it. Because we at my old school we had lessons all together, and if I didn't understand it, I just wouldn't ask questions, and we'd keep learning on and continue our lessons, and I wouldn't end up getting the concept because I didn't ask for help. And now when like I have a question now, I'll go up to like Mark or our assistant teacher Izzy and ask whatever question I have, and it made me realize just how much my confidence in having social situations and asking questions has changed because I didn't used to.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I think it's time to wrap up. Good job, everyone. That was really fun. All right. I don't know if Miss Angela's gonna come back. Oh, she is. Cool.
Okay, hello. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. I just like, I think I can speak for everyone. There was some like side chats going on about these kids. Oh my gosh. And you're our why. You're like the why of why we show up every day. And thank you for sharing your stories and all of the, brave and amazing things that you're doing. And we are honored to be on this journey with you and appreciate your time today. And thank you, participants, for showing up.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Have a great Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.